Welcome everyone to another installment of the Release the Snyder Cut Round Tables. I'm here once again. I'm your host Manu, and I'm really happy to be here. I got a great cast of Snyder fans. We're going to discuss a couple of topics today. First and foremost, I'd like to introduce once again Alessandro. How you doing, my friend?
Good. How you doing?
Yeah, straight from the JLU Podcast, man. So great to talk to you once more.
Thank you for having me.
All right, and I'd also like to welcome Tim. Tim, how you doing? Have you done a roundtable before? Is this your first?
This will be the first here. So, yeah.
I'm sorry. You're a professional. My bad.
Professional nobody, but yeah.
I forgot who I was talking to. But thank you for your time, and you're much appreciated. And last but not least, of course. And last but not least, I want to introduce my brother, my fellow exile, Lupe. How you doing, bro?
I'm chilling, man. Thanks for having me on.
Awesome, man. Thank you for coming on. Thank you for coming on to your first ever Snyder Cut Roundtable, and I hope it won't be your last.
First on the Snyder Cut Roundtable, and first in your heart as well.
Oh.
So we're just flexing now. Okay.
Hey, if we're not gonna flex, what are we here to do, right? Like we released the Snyder Cut. If we ain't flexing, we ain't doing this
For
shit,
real.
right? So speaking of the Snyder Cut, it's been a crazy couple of years, and believe it or not, things have been even crazier since the announcement of the release of this thing. Ever since the release of the cut has been made imminent, our very own Ray Fisher has gone on the offensive against Warner Brothers Pictures and Jeff Johns, Joss Whedon about the treatment that the cast and crew received during the reshoots for the Justice League movie that were helmed under Joss Whedon. It's been a crazy situation full of ups and downs. WB has done what we have known WB to do. They have gone out of their way to try to silence Ray. They've gone out of their way to discredit Ray. And as early as yesterday, with another article that showed up on the Wrap, written by the Snyder Cut fans, a very favorite Al Maimbe, because Lord knows how much we love that man. And he mentioned that the only way that Ray is going on the offensive is because he was only offered a small cameo role on the Flash movie. I think that would be a great place to start off on your thoughts about that. But before that, before we started recording, Ray Fisher posted on Twitter once again, and I will read his tweets. He said, due to the purposeful lack of transparency and in some cases blatant lies on the part of WB Pictures and the third-party firm hired by them to investigate Justice League, an official request for a change of investigator has been made of Warner Media, because now there are two separate entities. And the second tweet follows as, so as to protect the witnesses involved and the information they possess, I strongly encourage any and all that have been contacted by the current investigator to respectively decline to interview until a truly independent third party is engaged by Warner Media. A over E. So those are the latest comments in this entire debacle that has just been run amok. So Tim, what do you think of everything that we've witnessed so far? Where do you stand on all of this?
I mean, as far as I've seen, it's in line with, like those articles generally, they never cite a name, right? Like the telltale is a WB source, and Jay Oliva and everyone, we've known common sense. Like anyone can say, like the Wall Street Journal of, I believe, 2018, where they was like saying, like we were talking about this right around San Diego Comic-Con, they were saying there's no mythical Snyder.
Yeah,
cut.
that was 2019.
Okay. And just it's right in line. I've been impressed really how Ray Fisher has been like moving. It's very, very chess-like, because like he knows what's coming. He knows they're going to try to discredit. And, just from a plain common sense standpoint, you don't jeopardize your career if you don't have truth behind what you're saying. Mm-hmm. And what people seem to be missing is it's not just about him. Like the thing is, retaliation is real. If you work at like a movie theater or a fast food restaurant, sometimes the work situation is such as if you have a complaint, people generally if there's really bad behavior, people can get scared to speak on it, even collectively, because, basically passive aggressive retaliation. In Hollywood's context, lack of jobs. Execs will tell each other, hey, don't hire. They're, what's the word they like to use? Difficult. Okay. Yeah, that too. Lupe's ready to go. You see what I mean here? It's just like, and Ray's they're expecting him to blow up. And you look at his lives, he's like, no, we're doing this by the book. He wants third-party investors. That's why he's not you don't give all the details of your case in the names of people involved if there's an official investigation coming. Mm. So it's like, play it out. Like, the more they fight it, they're swimming against the tide. Just do the due diligence. If I'm in Warner Media, if I'm Jason Kill, I'm just like, what is going on here? We got hot stuff coming out. Why is this happening? Ring to Ann Sarnoff. What's going on down there? Why are we don't need this PR on our case from a star who's like, yeah, his name isn't big, but he's in one of our big tentpole movies for our big streaming platform, and he's saying dirty stuff's going on. We need to settle this right now, so that way we don't roll into the new year with like the Twitter like tweeting, fire Jeff Johns, right?
all that stuff. Yeah, I'm
surprised that hasn't trended yet. Like the A over E, like that should be the hashtag.
I kind of like it, to be perfect. It has a really good ring to it. Before I pass it on to Lex, I just want to say that I'm just really disappointed in Warner Brothers. I mean, I think that after the past couple of years, they kind of would have understood that this is not going to work with us. We've seen all of these tricks. We've seen it so often. We see right through it. Like, they tried to gaslight us about the Snyder Cut for like 3 years, and we could always see through it. And for them to think that this same weak ass tactic is going to work, like, El Mayimbe, really? That's what you're going to call? But Lex, what about you? Lex, what about you?
Well, I mean, I think that Warner Brothers Pictures is clearly trying to protect certain people, whether it's because of their personal relationships with them or because of the projects that are at stake that those people are part of or have initiated. I think a lot of shady stuff has been going on for years, not just with Justice League. And I think anybody who doubts or questions Ray aren't really considering, like, logically, it's not in his benefit to push for something that would prove him wrong. He would have nothing to gain from that. So the logic behind people accusing him of, merely doing the couple of things, having the couple of experiences that he's shared and not more, seem to be completely ignoring the fact that, Jason Momoa came out publicly and said some shady stuff went down. And I've even seen a couple people suggest that Ray should go to the police, but, we don't know what happened, and these people don't know what happened. Who says that it rises to the level of a crime? It could just be completely unethical behavior that, in a workplace environment is inappropriate and should be handled within the company, through like HR. So it just seems like, and frankly, the people being implicated have certainly proven to not be very reliable and respectable in the past. And, you got Diane Nelson commenting that Johns is no friend of hers, So clearly there's definitely been an atmosphere at WB where, these people are not liked for a reason. And I think that part of, even before Justice League, there was some sort of efforts to control things behind the scenes and sort of steer Warner Brothers in a certain direction in a very selfish way. Just take a look at the redesign for Steppenwolf. That's more in line with Johns' design in the comics. So it's like, it's clearly an attempt to sort of try to take over and maybe even like attempt to be like the Kevin Feige of the DC films.
Thank you for that, Lex. And did you have something to say, Tim?
Oh no, I was just nodding.
Okay,
I didn't say anything.
Sorry, I thought you. So I thank you very much, Lex, and I agree with so much that way of what you just said. I think so much is true. I mean, Ray Fisher is putting his career on the line for this. We already know he was having trouble finding work before even this, so it's not something that I'm sure that he's taking lightly. One of the reasons that I really wanted Lupe on this episode is because he and I we've been part of this from the very beginning, from days after BVS was released,
Right.
and we've seen it all. We've seen it all, and I think that one thing that we have to talk about that I don't think is mentioned a lot is the leaks about BVS pre-release of the movie. There's a lot of leaks around these big movies, right? No, not usually.
Definitely not from Marvel.
You say scripts don't get released like that?
The amount of leaks that surrounded Batman v Superman's release were beyond anything that I had ever seen that point in my film loving career. I had never seen anything like that. And there was a lot of criticism and confusion about WB's choices in marketing, like revealing Doomsday from the second trailer. It had already been leaked that Doomsday was going to be in the movie even before that trailer. There were so many rumors surrounding the movie, and I think that the production had a really hard time keeping up with everything, wondering what they should shut down, what they should keep going. There was even this rumor that was started that there was like a no joke policy on all DC films, and even that Dick Grayson was Jason Todd was not the dead Robin that was in the Batcave's that was in the Batcave's costume. All of those leaks came from somewhere within WB, and it's hard to like not realize how similar it is to what we've been seeing over the past few weeks. Lupe, what do you have to add? What do you think about all of this?
Yeah, the interesting thing about this Ray Fisher case is that, I mean, for people who are probably new to the scene or looking at it from the outside in, I can kind of understand where they'll look at DCEU fans and be like, "Oh, y'all are crazy with all the conspiracy theories." And
we're always right, though.
But the truth is, we've been in this for a long time. This is like our area of expertise, right? So while other people, peruse different fandoms and engage with different movies and directors and have a very wide focus on what they love or a shallow focus, we've been in this fandom 6 feet deep, for years and years and years, consuming every single morsel of information, parsing through, every single interview, every single sound bite, interpreted 10 different ways. So all that has been building up to this point where we as a fandom, like we're so knowledgeable about their tactics, about their moves, about the players in the game, that we're thinking several steps ahead. That's why we're always right. That's why it always seems like we're crazy at first. And then all these people get shocked. Like, oh my goodness, the Snyder Cut does exist. The Snyder Cut is getting released. Jeff Johns is a fucking asshole.
We've been talking about Jeff Johns' behavior for many years now.
For several years. And it's because, as I said, they're little things that, that start to build up, and you start to pick stuff from different places, and then you can come to a logical consensus. We are not crazy. We are not conspiracy theorists. We're actually rational people. We just have a lot more information than other people do about the subject at hand. And Manu is completely right. The atmosphere within the walls of Warner Brothers has been toxic for a long time. There's been a lot of undermining, backhanded things going on. And that's something that Jason Kilar needs to really take a look at. I think AT&T is doing a good job of, they said they're breaking down the silos. That's what they call it, because the whole Warner Brothers structure used to be that you had different divisions. So HBO, TNT, CW, Warner Brothers Studios itself, the games division. And what you'd have is all these people, I mean, DC Comics as well, you have all these people competing against each other. They're working for the same company, but they're all aggressively competing against each other because they're jealous of the position this person has, or this person is handling the project, and that project, the success of it, could be in direct competition with the success of theirs. For example, having two Flashes, that created a lot of conflict between creators of CW content and Warner Brothers content, you know? So Jason Kilar really needs to take a look at the entire organization and find out who the antagonists are, the saboteurs are, and create a more harmonious environment where people are not backstabbing each other and they're not all like crabs in a barrel trying to claw to the top. They all need to be working together. They are the same company. And as we've seen, people like Jeff Johns, people like Diane Nelson was one of them. We got to find out where the people who, you know, were in the background and weren't truly in support of what other artists were doing. And they were just biding their time, you know, trying to, you know, usurp people and, you know, and steal the throne from people. And it backfired on them, which I'm happy about. The Ray Fisher thing, just to conclude, I say this, I want people to know, I'm happy that Ray Fisher is going at them with, you know, through official channels and all this stuff. But even if Ray Fisher never came out and you know, and came out with these allegations, even if nothing was done against him, there's so much other stuff that Jeff Johns and Joss Whedon have done to other people that, you know, I'm going to be on their necks until they apologize. I've said it, until they apologize and make amends to so many people, to the fandom, to the Snyders, to people they work with, blah, 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 until I see a genuine apology and amends, effort to make amends. It's fuck Jeff Johns, fuck Joss Whedon. It should never be anywhere near anything I love. And that's where I'll leave it.
I mean, just looking at some of the quotes and the interviews that Jeff Johns have given over the years since he was put in a position of power should be more than enough to let you know where the man's heart lies. I mean, there was this incredibly insensitive article that was released on Vulture around Comic-Con 2019, I want to say. It was around the time of Justice League. Yeah. So that was 2017. Where Diane Nelson and Jeff Johns were openly gloating about the new position that they had acquired, down talking Snyder's work and prepping up the wonderful work that Mark Guggenheim and others have done on DC TV side. So, you know,
they took a victory lap before Justice League was released.
And then they even threw in that, if you don't like Justice League, Aquaman is right around the corner. I had far more time to get all up into that. So I think that if you take the time and you look at these things, there's so much evidence that proves to you where all of this stuff was coming from a very negative standpoint. And again, Jeff Johns, when he was first put in place, he was regurgitating the same words, the exact same words that we had heard bloggers use against Zack in his films. We had seen, like, he down-talked BVS, he down-talked Suicide Squad as well. Even though, according to David Ayer, he had his fingerprints on Suicide Squad as well. Yeah, changing his timeline and affecting the movie. And Jeff Johns has continued to be a part of DC ever since these actions have taken place.
You know, I've been pretty active on Twitter lately, commenting about how about these leaks. And in fact, my Sam Otten, the co-host of JLU Podcast, we even wrote about the leaks back, you know, a year before Batman v Superman came out. And I pointed out that, you know, this is what came out publicly. Imagine what was shared privately between people. And you know, a lot of people will take a look at the comparisons of Civil War and Batman v Superman. And they I mean, look,
they're the same movie.
They'll choose to look at individual things and say, oh, well, this is this and this is that. But in its totality, you know, it's a clear ripoff. You know,
I'm glad you brought that up. It's a great point to carry forward on. So, yes, it's impossible to watch these two movies side by side and say that the similarities are not, for lack of a better word, uncomfortable.
I mean, like the complete deviation from the source material, even as an adaptation, it's nearly, it's not even identical. Like Civil War, the comic, I've barely read Civil War, the comic. It does not resemble. I remember being there, was like, this is not where Civil War began. This is not Civil War at all. You know what I mean? It was so like slapdash. It was like, I was just like, what is this? Like it's like their attempt to I thought it was attempt to finally have consequences. Like, oh, so now we care about oh, now like, it's like, basically it was just like, it was only addressed in that boardroom was like, I don't know. I summed it up to, well, if you want to make an album, you got to break a few eggs. I remember just thinking like, Captain America has never cared about any of the damage in any of the films, and now he cares.
He cares.
Now you care.
All right, sorry, Lex was in the middle of something. I'm sorry, I cut you off, my friend. So please continue on with your point.
Oh no, my point was that that Jeff wanted control of the DCEU. He wanted to be the Kevin Feige of DC. Would make sense. The production of Batman v Superman, and I think that people are overlooking the amount of coincidences and not taking it as a whole. You know, they're choosing to make excuses for each little thing without actually seeing it as a whole. And I think that it's pretty clear what he's been up to. And, you know, as far as Infinity and Endgame, you know, a lot of big resemblance to what Zack had planned before those movies even came out.
I mean, not to cut you off. Sorry, just to you know, further your point. But I mean, think of all the movies that are made in Hollywood, all the movies that are made in DC films and Marvel films. The probability that two films can be so similar
within a month and a half of each other
is so tiny. Now, the probability that two films can be so similar and that another two films can be similar is even a lot less. So, I mean, people just need to stop acting emotionally and being a stan and a fan. It's because you love some comics that Jeff Johns wrote or whatever, and just think like a rational human being. Like, okay, I can understand if you're not diving headfirst into the quote-unquote conspiracy. It's okay to say, I need evidence, but don't just summarily dismiss it like it's absolutely impossible and you're crazy for even suggesting it.
I think that also. Sorry, go ahead, Lex. Go ahead.
And it's not, you know, and I've seen people compare it to, you know, twin films like The Illusionist and The Prestige, or Armageddon and Deep Impact. It's not a matter of just being about the same thing. It's a matter of like the plot points and the minutia being similar. You know, you look, people when the Snyder Cut came out, people started saying that the Sod looked like Infinity War and Endgame, and it's like, well, Corvus wasn't even introduced in the comics until 2013, and I don't know the exact timeline, but I imagine Zack probably had the design for that character already established because he had laid out a whole plan for his 5-movie arc.
And I think that what people, again, I think Lupe mentioned this earlier. We've been in this for a long time. A lot of people are just coming in and they don't know all the information that we do. And I think that one thing you forget is BVS was meant to release a whole year before it did. BVS's original release date was in 2015. They shot BVS in 2014. And I think that's
put it on ice. Yeah.
I really think that it's important to remember that.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go a step further. this is not the first incidence that we have seen of this. If people would look closely at the Iron Man trilogy and see the similarities it has to the Dark Knight trilogy, I think that there's already some there's already some threads there that are very, very similar between those three trilogies, especially when you consider the Dark Knight Rises and Iron Man 3, which have pretty much the same plot points, the same beats, down to John Favreau's Happy being injured and going to the hospital. Very similar to what we saw with Bruce Wayne and Gordon. There's so many, even down to Tony Stark and like connecting with this like younger version of himself that we also saw in the Dark Knight Rises. I mean, if you really take a closer look at that, you will find other examples of this popping up constantly. And all of this is just competition. Like, these two companies have been at it for decades, competing and stealing and borrowing ideas from one another to help each other grow. It's part of the business.
Right. And listen, everything's derivative. No one's saying you can't borrow ideas.
Exactly.
But when you're undermining something before it's even released,
yes,
you know, stealing it for yourself
and giving it to somebody else, because I don't think we said it outright, but I think that we're all saying that Jeff Johns shared the scripts that Zack had written along with Chris Terrio, David Goyer, and shared them with Kevin Feige and Marvel.
I have no doubt.
let me drop some heat, some knowledge, just something that I've observed over the past years. And this, whatever conclusions you draw are up to you. All right. So one of the reasons why I never, ever trusted Jeff Johns was because before he was appointed head of DC Films, he was campaigned for to be head of DC Films by bloggers. Like, their whole thing was, Zack Snyder is not good for the DCEU. DCEU is horrible. They need a Kevin Feige. Why don't they just hire Jeff Johns? That was like, I used to watch Collider. I used to watch El Mayimbe. He had a show he used to do with this other stupid producer guy. I used to watch Double Toasted. I used to watch Screen Junkies. I used to watch all of them.
Whole caboodle.
I used to watch every single one of them. Like, that was, I just used to consume that stuff. And every single one of them campaigned for Jeff Johns.
Every
single one. I'm not talking about just one or two. Every single one of them.
And they rejoiced. When he got it, they rejoiced.
You think they would have learned from Green Lantern?
Yeah. Just off of comics. And so to see Warner Brothers hire him was just weird to me, because this is a comic book writer, but obviously that was a time when all they were listening to were the bloggers. So that was the first reason why I was suspicious of him, because I was like, the people who have been calling us like Trump supporters and crazy alt-right, women-hating, misogynist, violent people are the exact same people who you're listening to. So my brain just couldn't so that's the first thing. Now, a big fan of Jeff Johns, he's openly said it, and he used to talk about it in his podcast, is El Mayimbe. All right? So let that connection be known already. Now, is it possible that one of El Mayimbe's sources was Jeff Johns? I don't know, but it's possible. But I don't know. I don't have evidence of that. But I do know that there's this amazing affinity for the guy, this need and desire and campaign to make him head of DC Films, and that came to fruition. Now, he had been through all that time, he was happy, whatever, that Jeff Johns was head of DC Films, always supported every single thing he said. The whole hope, optimism, heroics, and humor, bull fucking shit.
That Vulture article.
That bullshit. It was El Mayimbe that first came up with it, and I heard Jeff Johns echo it.
That Vulture article that I mentioned earlier. Actually,
I'm painting the picture. All right, now the final salvo for me, the main thing that people need to, your antennas just need to go up, is that when Jeff Johns got fired, the Wrap, all the major trades wrote articles about the whole thing, right? That, oh, you know what? Because Justice League didn't, do well. This is a fallout. John Berg has been, moved, whatever. Jeff Johns has been fired. Diane Nelson will no longer be this, blah, blah, blah. And then Tommy Emmerich had like a quote of, we're listening to the fans. Some fucking like bullshit. They weren't.
Just PR speak.
So THR wrote an article, obviously. Deadline wrote an article. Variety wrote an article, as they all do. The Wrap wrote an article. In the Wrap's article, which you can still find online, go Google it, El Maimbe wrote the article, and he did not mention a single thing about Jeff Johns.
I mean, it's like it's the whole thing, and it's like, speaking of borrowing talent, like they talk about the design, like if BVS finished like filming in 2000, what was it? You said 14?
I know they started in 2014. I'm not exactly sure when they finished. It might have been early 2015.
Yeah.
Basically, by the time they're rolling film on like BVS, the staff, Jared Moran's and other talent that have been also on Man of Steel, they're doing pre-pro on Justice League. So it's like by the time, before even Civil War is announced, before Infinity War is even thought of, which, people are saying there's always a plan. No, Josh Whedon said there was no plan. He kind of saying as a lark, right?
They didn't even know exactly what they were going to do with Endgame.
These people jump on projects all the time. Jared Moran has worked on Zack stuff, Marvel stuff. JLU, they share talent so much. So there's a concept artist style for like those who pay attention to concept artists. Like it's in your benefit to have kind of a malleable kind of style. So there's kind of a commonality when you look across. It's like, this looks like it's the same guy, but it's actually like the same 10 people. So it's like, they're sharing more or less like if it looks similar, that's because it's probably the same dude designing it. But it's also like, it's a year. These things have been sitting all night. So like you said, like VH, it's been sitting there, and like James Gunn recently said that, oh yeah, he'd more than likely have Patty and all them and Zach on the set. But the thing here is like that's not a common occurrence. Like it's Christopher Nolan, like he didn't have people visit the set like that. Like it was closed doors on the Dark Knight trilogy. It was just closed doors, usually unless you get like a private invite. And it's like I think this, like Jeff Johns definitely like has a big role, but I think Ray's been hinting that he's aiming at higher up people still, that I think he's aiming at Toby Emmerich. Like Toby Emmerich is still, he has like a position adjacent from the person who now, something black.
Sarnoff?
No, not Sarnoff, someone else. There's someone else who took his, but like Sarnoff took Sujihara's open spot. And there's someone else who came from New Line Cinema, who's also, came after Toby Emmerich.
Even a woman, right?
Yeah, I think it is.
Yeah. And like Emmerich is still there. He has a different.
I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
He's got like this, but it's like he's still there. And I think Ray is like, look, Toby Emmerich needs to be held accountable. Toby Emmerich, in that article talking about, the baton's been passed off to Joss. He's just finishing what Zack started. That is a patent lie. It's false.
That shit. That I just when I heard that shit, it just my brain was like, "What is going on?" Like
he was having the staff say, "You do." He had that whole promotional tour. He had that. I remember. I think John. I remember him having Debbie say that same thing. I felt so bad for her because it's like everyone knew that was a lie.
Yeah.
And it's like Emmerich is like, yes, the Johns definitely deserves it, but someone let him off the leash. Someone said, okay, this is A-okay.
Yeah.
I will enable you. It's like, and that, I think that's what, and I think that's what Walter's worried about. Cause he's like, he knows who Ray's going after. He knows it's not just John. He's like, you're going after Toby. And
Toby's the one who give him his job.
Yeah.
Bingo. The fact is, it's like, this is a situation where there's a lot of greedy hands, a lot of like people way too anxious, and they let the ideas of competition cloud good business. Like, just like, look at the financials, forget the bloggers, look at the financials. Your movies are on an incline. Coming straight out the gate, you're building up a lot of goodwill. There's like, well, what about BVS not hitting $1 billion? He's like, well, first of all, one, your film should have came out a year ago, but two, you're rebuilding you're basically reintroducing Superman. Like for better or for worse, the licensee idea of Superman, like John Burns once said, there's two Supermans. There is the Superman in the comics, who's been many variations off of Schuster and Siegel's version. And then there's the licensee Superman. And that's the Superman that just stands and smiles with the eagle on his shoulder.
Yep.
He is distinctly different from the 1938 champion of the oppressed. This is the truth, justice, and the American way Superman, who people has basically this weird relationship where basically he's turned into basically God without religion. So that way you can either he's the one people describe. They use the words when they describe Superman, he should be someone you aspire to, but you cannot achieve. We look up to him. He guides us, those kind of descriptors. But at the same time, the reason people say, oh, he's so boring, because he's bigger than us. He's more powerful than us. How can we care? But you know what I mean? It's that weird paradox. And you're fighting against that. A Superman movie on its own, released in that time beforehand, was never going to hit this oddball $1 billion mark. That is not a common thing. And people forget that. So you're building up, you're reintroducing Superman. You're reintroducing him for everyone, for a new generation. And it's like, he can't be like the 79 version. He has to be this, what he's always going to be, an amalgamation. And so rolling into BVS, it's like, Batman was always going to be there. They ask, he had the Superman ethic. I'm unclear on the timeline of because WB always I'm not sure if they wanted Batman first or if Zack wanted Batman first, but
Zack did.
From what we've heard, it was Zack's idea to bring in Batman.
Okay, cool. Then even better.
The only thing that you can...
because he had a plan to go follow through with a Final Crisis storyline.
Yeah. And like you said, you got to rebuild Superman's house. You have to get it back in order. And Superman's house was not in order.
And I think that first and foremost, Tim, that was a hell of a flex. But I gotta add also that I think that also people look too much at the Marvel model when talking about about what Zack had in mind. That's why we're still hearing a lot of talk about Man of Steel 2 and all that stuff, never really understanding that really wasn't what this particular group was aiming for. And I think that,
and I'm sorry to interrupt, but to go back to something Tim said about Marvel not really having a plan.
We all over the place now.
Nick Fury was supposed to be just an Easter egg. They didn't have a plan to do this big storyline. Look at the model for Thanos. It changed 3 times. So they clearly didn't have some sort of idea.
And they had a different actor. They had a different actor that played Thanos.
Right. So they weren't gonna jump into this big team effort when they didn't even have that in their minds. That's why they had a bunch of solo movies.
Ultron was not meant to be the villain in the sequel of the Avengers movie. That was a Joss Whedon. It was a Joss Whedon idea. Joss Whedon told Kevin Feige that Ultron should be the villain in the sequel. So this idea that Kevin Feige had everything planned out from day one, it kind of really needs to, I don't understand where so much.
But the thing is, Manu, remember we've had this discussions, and one reason I'm happy that AT&T has taken over for Warner Brothers is that Disney as a company, they're very savvy. They're a modern company. They understand new media, and they understand everything that surrounds it in terms of fandoms, brands, marketing, blogs, influencers, all that stuff. Warner Brothers was operating on an old model. Mm-hmm. They're like a dinosaur, archaic. They do not understand these things, and that's why Disney mopped the floor with them. You know what I'm saying? In my opinion, Warner Brothers had the better content. We're talking about artists like Ben Affleck and
Rick Famuyiwa.
And having the stronger IPs, but Disney was able to control the narrative. As Alessandro, and Manu have been saying, talking about how, they didn't have this big plan or whatever, but they're able to
manipulate the conversation
and create.
Avengers was their first $1 billion movie, right? But you have to consider yeah, you have Batman and Superman in BVS, but in Avengers, you had a lot more characters. Not only that, but you had characters that people were already, committed to from the previous movies. So for them to expect BVS to get $1 billion was sort of silly. And I know people will say, well, Dark
Batman
Knight
alone made $1
right.
billion. That's the
Right.
And also,
counterpoint.
like, think about this:
But-
when you have these films so close to each other,
Yes,
you're splitting the audience. There's
Right.
people who are going to see both. So
6
if
weeks.
Civil War-
6 weeks. It was legit 6 weeks
So
between
see-
BVS and Civil War. It was
Exactly.
6 weeks. There's no runway. There's no runway. Like
Right.
like Avengers had no competition when it came out in like May of 2012 until the Dark Knight movie came out in July of that same year. I think the only other movie that came in between was The Amazing Spider-Man that came out in late June, but that didn't really get much. I think they made less than 700 million. It didn't really cut out of Avengers stock that had really made like that, just had this platform for about 2 months to kind of just run rampant. BVS did not have that luxury, and not just in the United States. China also pulled BVS out of theaters after a few weeks. That's something else that we never really talk about.
And also, no matter what anyone says, don't forget that you had a whole entertainment media,
Bashing the movie from day one.
hating on the movie, like wanting to like intentionally destroy it in every
Bot
single.
campaign.
Do you remember the article from Drew McQueenie? I think that's his name. About how they like invented this new thing that was going to be able to tell if a movie was gonna bust or be great, and that Batman v Superman was going to be a huge bust. I have never heard about this machine ever since. I have never heard about it.
That's how bad it was.
Yeah.
They invented an algorithm. They said, we have a new algorithm, and this algorithm is going to tell us if movies are going to do well or not. The algorithm, splashy headline, Batman v Superman is going to be a box office bomb. It's going to blah, 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 blah. Obviously, it was part of the narrative to destroy the movie even before it came out, along with other headlines. And after Batman v Superman came out, we never heard of this algorithm again.
And even with all that hurricane of mess, it made north of 900 million. Like for those obsessed with numbers, if it was released on its own, for those obsessed, it would hit the $1 billion mark. I think it would have shown to have legs.
I'd be curious to know who set the 2.5 hour limit, because universally, the Ultimate Edition, everyone says it's better than the theatrical cut.
And it's rated.
Well,
let's add that. The Ultimate Edition is rated. It went in front of the MPAA board. That movie is rated. That's the movie that was supposed to come out in theaters. The cut down to 30 minutes occurred but a few weeks before the film's release.
Oh, yes, I remember that.
Which really cut its legs out from under it. Like the theatrical version is fine, but it's like there's a reason people are like, oh, this isn't really a Superman movie. And it's like most of the 30 minutes was Clark.
Yep, that's exactly right.
I have a different stance on this. Like you guys, this is my controversial opinion. Okay, now my rating for the theatrical cut is, for me, it's a 9 out of 10. And some people will find that strange, but I feel that the Ultimate Edition is a 10 out of 10. When I went to the theater and I saw the theatrical edition, I didn't hate the movie.
I love the theatrical edition.
I kind of prefer it, actually.
I was buzzing on the bike ride home.
I've heard people I still have people to tell me they prefer the theatrical.
Yeah, so no,
I think that the Ultimate Edition kind of holds your hand, and I think that that's why more people like it.
Exactly. And there's another reason as well. I think Batman v Superman is definitely a movie you have to see more than once, right? We know that. It gets better. Maybe you get a little bit more used to who Lex Luthor is because you're expecting something different.
Yeah.
He talks very, very quickly, and you might miss his motivations. But we all know the first time I saw the movie, I didn't fully understand every single thing. It was my third viewing where it really hit home. But even before that, I understood the greatness I was watching. I mean, just open your fucking eyes. So I think that people getting the chance to see it again and understand that, okay, I'm not going into a joke fest. This is a little bit more complex than your average Marvel movie, so I have to pay attention and all those things. So on second viewing, they gained some more things. And then that Ultimate Edition which it does have a lot more in it and it's a bit richer. It left a better taste in their mouth. I feel like if the Ultimate Edition was released in theaters, I think it would have been bashed, and there would have been nothing else to come out for people to give it a second chance.
Okay, I think that's an interesting take. I think it's an interesting take.
I
just think that if the Ultimate Edition had been released, a lot of the complaints that people had about the theatrical cut would not have been there.
Exactly.
You know, I think
there were still other complaints. Don't act weird.
But those complaints still exist.
But like Lex said, it holds your hand and it makes like people who aren't like fully, it just makes people feel a little bit better because
it's a slower pacing too.
Yeah, and I think that the theatrical cut, there's like so much going on, and you really have to actively watch the movie. You can't be passive while watching BVS. And I think that most people watch films passively.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that what happens when that happens, you come out of the movie and you get upset at the movie.
Yeah.
Explaining things. Well, it was just you that weren't paying attention. And come on, we spent the last 4 years trying to explain BVS.
What's the thing is, I think people like you said, like people are expecting a Marvel film, and I think there is like almost too much space in between the Nolan films and Zack's films, where like the Marvel films came to prominence because it's like the people that enjoyed. I'm just like, it was like people who complain. It's like I'm not saying you have to like it because it's written by the same guy, but the fact that the Batman Begins and Dark Knight are both written by David Goyer and Chris Nolan, and Superman, the Man of Steel, as written by David Goyer and partly written by BVS. It's like these tonally are very similar. So it's almost like you have to tell people, look, the same mindset you went into for the Dark Knight, you need to bring that mindset into Man of Steel and BVS and Zack Snyder's Justice League, so that they can come open and understand this is more serious, more earnest take. Yeah. There's levity in there, but
But I also think that even The Dark Knight Rises was actually already panned a little bit for its tone, because it came out 2 months after the Avengers, and it was.
That's right.
And it was already a problem back in 2012.
Oh, dude, that's the same summer I was like, because I had friends who were big in the movie, Bob, and I remember seeing his thing about BVS versus Avengers, and I remember being like, I need to stop looking at this guy. Like it's like I was like, no, this is like objectionably off.
Like Lex, you're about to say something.
If you notice, I think Ronaldo and a leak on Reddit from WB Insiders was talking about how there were ideas pitched for Superman that weren't used, and then Zack was hired. And it's interesting how the narrative around Man of Steel was things like, oh, the level of destruction was bad. But you have Gotham City in Dark Knight Rises, experiencing like bomb explosions, and then Civil War shows the level of destruction from a man on the street point of view, just like BVS, mind you.
They have giant worms flying through the buildings in the Avengers.
So the level of destruction is there, but only Man of Steel was criticized for that. Which was probably also some sort of campaign against Zack Snyder.
I'd only also like to add that one of those pitches that was rejected before Zack was hired, one of them was written by Jeff Johns.
Ding, ding. Absolutely. Chris Nolan pulled a power move. Like, I think it was in Vinaldo's thread. It was Jeff Johns, Mark Millar, and someone else. There were some DC comic writers. And
they hated Man of Steel.
The guy who does the Kingsman movies. What's his name?
I can't remember right now. You're gonna have to ask me later.
The guy who does the Kingsman movies.
Yeah. He did Kick-Ass too, right?
Yeah, Kick-Ass.
X-Men First Class.
Yeah.
I can't remember right now. I'll Google it real quick. Sorry, guys.
This is like Chris Nolan pulled that flex.
While you're Googling it, I just want to point out that Man of Steel was basically an adaptation of Superman Earth 1, which was a New York Times bestseller that people loved.
Matthew Vaughn.
Oh, right, Matthew Vaughn. That's right.
Matthew Vaughn.
And that had the same elements, but that wasn't criticized for how it portrayed Superman.
Didn't that dude have an interview? Like I saw a clip on Twitter where just like I would just write it kind of boring. Like I don't know, like it would just be action and just a retread. And it's like thing is what people don't get is that's what you're going up against. That's why a Superman movie off top at that time could not make $1 billion because that's the attitude towards Superman, that he's boring and powerful. So when they say Batman and Superman together, that should be $1 billion film. It's like, no, because the attitude is that Superman isn't a $1 billion franchise, that he isn't someone you can invest in. And that's what you're going up against. That's what, like,
you look at Superman Returns.
Exactly. It's like, and
Lupe does not want to do that. Lupe does not want to do that. Lupe does not want to talk about Superman Returns.
So you don't want to talk about Superman, the absentee father?
The creep, the late night creep.
Oh man!
All right. Before we move on to our next segment, I did bring it up earlier, but I really want to know what your guys' thoughts are about this idea of boycotting WB Pictures in support of Ray Fisher and his active fight against that studio. It's kind of a controversial topic, I got to say. So, Lupe, what do you think? Do you think that one of the best ways of supporting Ray Fisher would be to, I guess, for lack of a better word, punish WB financially until they decide to do the right thing?
If the fandom is united about it, like I'm down for the cause. Because I think this is serious and they're really playing fire. But we got to be. It depends. Okay, so do you want to boycott Warner Brothers? Do you want to boycott Warner Media?
Do you want to boycott Jeff Johns?
There needs to be.
Okay, fine. So anything that has Jeff Johns' name on it. How does that sound?
Right?
Anything that has.
Well, let me give you my my input on this, because you had asked me earlier. As far as boycotting, I think we don't have enough information about what happened to really decide, this is definitely something that we need to do. But I'm not opposed to people boycotting. But I think it's something that would probably happen organically if it was going to be successful.
Yeah.
I don't think it's something that, I think people being opposed to boycotting is nonsensical.
Sorry, Lex, you tapped out for a bit. Can you say that again?
Sure. I don't think it's smart for people to be opposed to a boycott per se. I think you're being naive if you're going to, talk against boycotts. But I also don't know if we're necessarily in a place as a fandom where we're in a position where we have enough information, like I said, to warrant a boycott.
Okay, respectful.
So, but I do believe in the power of boycotts. I boycotted. I'm not saying that this is why we got the Snyder Cut, but I certainly boycotted Warner Brothers on principle. Mm-hmm. In fact, the whole Warner Brothers, including the comics and other Warner Brothers films. Yeah. And I'm, now I'm finally giving them my money as a thank you and reward, because they satisfied the demand of the customer, which would be me in this situation. And so therefore I'm fulfilling my business obligation as a consumer to buy their products.
I think that's the thing. I think as fans, we sometimes forget that we're also consumers. Mm-hmm. But Lupe, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. So apart from, I like what Alessandro said about, having the information. So for one, I know most of us already were boycotting Jeff Johns. I think probably we need to raise the decibels on our displeasure, on our discontentment with him. He has been silent through this whole thing, and he needs to stop getting away with that bullshit. I think we probably need to go harder and really make it a campaign. But people so what's the extent of involvement? Like Joss Whedon, Jeff Johns, John Berg, who are the people? Also, when you're boycotting, you do need to understand that there are innocent people who are going to get the fallout of that. So you need to measure, okay, because I'm against Jeff Johns, what about this entire production that has nothing to do with Jeff Johns?
I'd like to comment on that.
So I mean, I'm not criticizing anyone, but please go ahead.
But I just, if I could just speak to that real quick. I've heard a lot of people complaining saying we shouldn't boycott because of that. But that's the very nature of a boycott. Other people are going to be affected always in a boycott. And part of the boycott is that those people who are being affected will be also speaking out saying, I'm being affected by this. I want him held accountable. I don't want to be associated with him anymore because he's hurting me, in my livelihood.
Yeah,
so
like,
that's part of the boycott.
Yeah, you want other people at WWE like, why is Jeff John still here?
Right.
Let me see. You want one of their directors to be like, why is Jeff still here?
It's kind of like a big part, like a military team, where like if you make a mistake, the whole unit has to pay, and they're just like,
yeah.
Like if Wonder Woman is harmed because of John's association to it, you would think Patty would say, I don't want him involved in part 3.
Because he's hurting my film.
Yeah,
exactly.
But I agree. I agree with that point, to be honest. I do. Because you got it. But I'm saying these are things to discuss and
No, you're absolutely right. And I'm really grateful you brought that up. Because again, for me, because the way that I stand for it, like it's not a black and white issue whatsoever. I think it's a big deal, and it's something that we should talk about. What I just feel like it is something that we should talk about. It should not just be swept on the rug or dismissed. I think that it's something that's worth discussion, and I do believe that would come up. Like, how do we feel about other directors who have not followed in this realm be punished for what somebody else did, and is that really fair? And I think that is a very fair discussion to have, but it's a discussion that we should have, and we should be open to different interpretations, different ideas, and different opinions. Because one of the reasons why we're in this fucking mess in the first place is because there were a lot of people out there that did not want to listen when we started talking about this years ago. There was a lot of gaslighting and a lot of attempts to silence people who knew things. Right. So my thing is not about all of us having to agree on something, but we have to discuss and be open to each other, even when we disagree, especially when we disagree, because it's ridiculous to me that Zack Snyder fans, people who love BVS, can't understand this simple, very simple concept of different people not necessarily agreeing, but still being able to see eye to eye and working together towards something. That drives me crazy.
That's been a big thing, like since Aquaman. Like we all started seeing it around that time, because it was like the attitude was like, because it's, to me, it all falls into communication. Like, how do we, as a section of consumers, speak to this company in a meaningful fashion where they not only just hear us, they understand.
A company that only cares about money. WB has proven to us time and time again that the only thing that matters is money.
So how do you communicate? It's like because like as I said, the discussion is important. You look at, first practical application. Like some people don't realize, like, look, like the act of not spending money on a film because either you don't like the trailer or you don't like the company. It's the same action. So I think this is a philosophical debate, because I think people's concern about it really shows that it's effective. A boycott in mass, in giant unit, it has to be in mass.
The fact that we got the Snyder Cut shows how powerful we are as a fandom and as a movement. They're not giving us the Snyder Cut just because they're being nice. They saw the numbers. They know that this is profitable. They know what we mean to them as a spending force. And
it's opened the floodgate. You have obviously the Ayer cut, but also there's apparently a Rocky IV director's cut.
And a Batman Forever's cut.
A Godfather 3 recut. Okay. Yeah, this is it's made directors feel like, well, hold on a second. Like I said, like this is it's everything. It's like, and again, we're talking like people like we're not. People seem to think we're just thinking on just the joy of it. No, we've been understood the business application.
Yeah,
it's business supply and demand. We're saying, hey, we're demand. We know you've got it. We know it's not a phantom film. Like even before, like it was even before like Zach was talking about, like saying even before the Dark Side thing. If you film a film and you cut it into a timeline, that is by definition a cut. So it's like, it's just like, again, it's like, it's been an education, because a lot of people, and like, not even that they would know how film productions can work, and there's different styles of film. Zack doesn't make his production the same way as Quentin Tarantino, who doesn't make it the same as Francis Ford Coppola, who doesn't make it the same as Akira Kurosawa. These are vastly different production styles, and it's everyone's been re-educated on how this is actually going to work. And if you really want to hurt Warner Bros., you make the stock go down. If you really
he said that with so much menace. He said that with so much menace.
Those goddamn investors. That's everything. And I think that's one of the reasons why why I knew the Snyder Cut was going to come, because we were getting to the point where we're making them look bad, and their investors were going to be saying, yo, look at all that money out there. What the fuck is y'all doing?
Right.
And look at all the positivity they got from just the recent trailer and everything.
All right, before we move on to the next topic, because I think we've beaten this dead horse into the ground. I wish. No, let me not say that.
I know what you're about to say.
But I will say that I tweeted something I think maybe last week that the Snyder Cut was not just about a movie. One of the reasons why the studio held back was exactly because of this, of all of the behind the scenes shit. All the stuff that Johns and Wheaton and Berg and whoever else is out there,
Emmerich,
because they knew that if they released this would not go quietly into the night, that somebody was going to look into this and dig into this, and some shit that they did not want to come out was going to come out. Well, here we are, and we're going to see how things are going to pan out in the weeks and the months, and I hate to say it, even years to come, but
if I was Ann Sarnoff, I wouldn't be worried, because it's not me taking the L. It's the previous administration. They're taking the L, and then she gets to look like the conquering hero.
Yep.
Be like, yeah, change the culture, get lost. We're doing things the right way.
My take is the fact that Johns is still there. I think that that's a sign that there's more to this than, like Lex said, there's a lot more to this than what we know. Because Jeff was taken away from his position as the head of DC Films, but he still has a prominent role at DC. And it has to be questioned.
He's still there.
Yeah, and it has to be.
I sometimes wonder if he's got something on them, and he's.
You know what, Lex? I think to an extent he does, in terms of if Jeff Johns goes down,
he's not going down alone. I'm
taking
taking all of y'all with me.
We're going down to hell together.
All going down together, and that's basically what Ray has been saying.
Yeah, it's like the Royal Rumble.
Also, I think they know that he is that type of person, because, for example, Zack Snyder's not that type of person.
Oh yeah, and they know what Jeff did to Zack. They saw it firsthand.
Yeah. When Zack Snyder was pushed off Justice League, he left, and he didn't tear people down.
Not once.
Tried to retaliate. He didn't do anything. He was very gracious. He always is. You can see him bringing people back into the fold, having conversations with Cavill, who betrayed him, having conversations with Patty Jenkins, who basically has pushed his creative vision off Wonder Woman 1984, being very supportive, that sort of thing. But Jeff Johns is such a snake and such a viper that, they know that this is not the type of person we can do that shit with.
Okay. All right. So let's move on to more positive topics. All right. This has been a heavy hour, guys.
Okay.
So one of the great things about the Snyder Cut being released is not only that we're going to get a ton of footage that we haven't seen yet, not only are we going to get the fucking proper color grading that we've been hoping for, we're finally going to get Junkie XL's original score for Justice League. And not only are we getting his original score, according to an interview that he's given with Forbes, Junkie XL has been able to go back and rework some of the tracks that he designed for the production 4 years ago. 4 years ago. This has been going on for 4 years, guys. It's crazy to think about.
Mr. Sonic the Hedgehog is back.
So at last week's fandom event, Junkie XL shared a brief clip of a track that we're going to get to hear in the Snyder Cut. What was your overall thoughts on it? Tim, why don't you get us started on that?
It sounded like his style. first of all. And it's just like, it really had, I listened to it a few times because I was like, obviously he's got that classic percussive movement that he's known for. Like, I've watched so many, he has a YouTube and he goes over his whole process. Like, I've been a fan since like Fury Road, and I was just listening to his production style and recording stuff. I was just like, ooh, I'm going to use some of those ideas. But it's like, it's there, but also the melody. Because like, you listen to it a few times and you catch like the melody. Because this feels like it's in the middle, like the build up in the middle of the song. So this melody is probably repeated early on or part of the motif, but it was just like, it felt like him. It felt like this is a battle sequence, like a charge, like they're going into what was it? Chernobyl. That's where the last fight takes place. Chernobyl. They're going, and it's like, it feels heroic. It feels like courage. It's like, it feels moreover appropriate to the film and material for which it is designed. And it is not taken from another film score thoughtlessly to be applied. It's like, no, this is where it needs to be. And it just like, it felt like victory.
Yeah, I like that. It felt like victory. Yeah, damn, you took some shots at Daddy Elfman there. I caught that. Yeah. Lex, what about yourself, my man?
Well, so I was actually listening earlier. It's the song. It's just a clip, so I don't know the full context, but it sounds like it starts in like a G minor to emphasize a hopeful struggle, which is not uncommon heroic themes. Songs. It seems to transition to the key of C in the later part, which is interesting because that's usually a happy key with like no sharps and flats. And but with that key of C, it also sounds ominous. So it makes me wonder if that sort of speaks to the flow of the film, where the plot's conflict is resolved, but only to discover that there's like a real threat of dark side still, has only just surfaced. Themes like Avengers and Justice League animated series seem to resolve around the G major for the main.
What if it's from like a C to an A minor, sort of a counterpoint? Because if it's like C major for like the then it's like C minor is like A minor is a harmony, like a dissonant harmony kind of thing.
Well, I'm just going by what that clip had. There doesn't seem, it didn't seem to be any A minor keys in it. But it does seem to incorporate many instruments, specifically the horns, to convey a grand tone, like an epicness. And I'm a big fan of the percussion, like Tim, which reminds me of elements from Batman v Superman score, but also 80s sci-fi reminiscent of themes like Terminator 2 and Total Recall, which is very apropos because it captures both the metallic and alien aspects of the New Gods designs. So that was my takeaway of.
Damn, y'all, Lupe, you up next, dog? Like,
it went in.
I got nothing to add, bro. I got nothing to add to that.
Let me take my stab at it. All right. So I have my mind states as it pertains to it all over the place. So first off, I don't know if I'm the only one that heard part of the Superman theme in it. And then when you guys talk of percussions, I heard a little bit of the Batman theme.
Yeah.
So what I feel like it sounds like is he's taken elements from the different characters and made a cohesive thing. Now, I'm not saying this is the Justice League theme, but I'm assuming that this is a scene where it's probably a battle scene. Let's keep it real. Where they're all, fighting together. So he's bringing different elements because it does also sound very busy. Okay, like a lot busier than even like his stuff, because I've listened to a lot. It sounds very busy, but I think that's intentional because probably there's all these characters working together for this goal in the heroic, triumphant moments. So that I got from it. Also, as Tim said, the main thing is that it's appropriate. It's modern. It's epic. It's not like there was like this sort of slaps. Like, what was Danny Elfman doing? He had like this slapstick kind of rubbish going. I almost thought I was going to hear like those Mario sound effects like.
Oh man.
Like,
Man, that's what happened when you're like composing the storyboards.
As if
like...
Justice League isn't bad enough, the score is just. I'm telling you, like I've never usually when I hear scores, I'm like, that's just okay. It's not great or whatever. It's forgettable. I've never seen a movie where the score makes the movie worse. And so, bravo.
Definitely did that.
It's just, and I would like to think that, like, okay, in some alternate Earth 7 or 8, there's like, okay, here's the Justice League with Josh Whedon and then Danny Elfman. I would like to think he wouldn't just copy and paste the previous team. I would like to think
he had no time.
No,
for the just like to defend, not even to defend, because fuck Danny Elfman, but he had no time. They give him like 6 weeks to come up with
exactly.
something.
Like
that's what I'm saying. I would imagine.
Yeah, but he defended recycling that stuff.
You know what? He did defend regurgitating all that stuff from back in the day.
But his musician's pride, he would have to at least try. Like, come.
And honestly, that's what makes this Junkie interview that he did today with Forbes so hysterical, because all the crap that Elfman said all those years ago, Junkie said the exact opposite.
Right.
He said you should come up with a team that inspires you for that character. I think that is important in the development of these movies. If Mad Max get remade in 25 years, I'm not expecting people to do something similar to what I did for Fury Road. Give it your take. And I think that that's not only true for Junkie XL and his score, it's also true for Zack and what he was attempting to do with these heroes. He brought his take, his vision, his perspective, and that's what artists are meant to do. Continuing to rehashing and bringing back the past is dishonest.
Well, I think he also mentioned how, that was good for the time and that the times are different now.
Yeah, that was a different quote. I didn't want to quote the whole.
Sure.
Yeah, but
it's a really good fucking article.
Because there was a crunch on time, and it's like, I'm sure Elfman was doing PR speak, but it's like at the same time, it's like, okay, yes, he did compose that Batman theme, but this is a different project.
And a different Batman.
It would stand the reason I would think part of them will at least want to try to do a different take. To remind people of why he has the status he does. And secondly, that's not his Superman. That's not his Superman theme. Hey, I'm just talking in the public and the
even
public
what he did with that
atmosphere.
Wonder Woman theme is like criminal. I think he should.
That was silly. That was silly. I remember listening to it again.
And he even mocked Hans's take on the Wonder Woman. He mocked it in one of his.
He mocked all of it.
He did.
That's why we've been on Jeff Johns' neck so hard. That's why we go so hard.
Because he allowed for this to happen.
Because, guys, think about this. As everyone has said, there was a time crunch, right? And if you're really just innocently trying to bring a project to the finish line, when you have a time crunch, you don't add complexities that have the possibility of derailing your production. So the fact that they put Danny Elfman in there shows an intent, a nefarious, evil intent to actually completely strip Zack Snyder's legacy, to completely erase him from memory and to completely make it something so different that it's like he never existed. And that's why, to me, it's always, everything with this has always rung so personal. Because when people say, oh, no, he's just doing his job, this is not just doing his job.
No, it's not.
This is personal.
He went above and beyond.
This is personal.
They wrote how many new pages? How many new pages did they write? They got a whole new composer. They brought in a whole new composer. Like I think Lupe, that's when you and I were like, this is, I know you were ahead of me, because I still had some hope. But when they took Junkie off the project, that's when I was like, that's because if you're getting a new composer 3 months before the movie's supposed to come out, like, what are you doing?
That's what John Snaps like. I saw a recent clip and just like in his original, like, if you take new composer, he's like, it's like, it really does say this is things are changing. Isn't there like a formula? Maybe you guys can speak on to, like, 1 page of dialogue equals how many minutes in film?
Like a minute.
1 minute.
It was 80 pages, 80 new minutes.
Yeah, one page of a screenplay is 1 minute of screen time.
So that's more than an hour's worth.
It was 80 minutes. 80 pages, 80 minutes.
And then the rest is what the action. The rest is basically the action scenes. And the crazy thing is that the credits are also part of that 2-hour runtime.
Exactly.
Like if you look up Justice League is 1 hour, 59 minutes, 59 seconds. Like that.
Exactly. And of that 80 new pages, 80 new minutes. So you're only left with 40 minutes of stuff that was Zack Snyder's. And over that, you have that horrible score. It's screwed to fucking death. Like, what the fuck? Like,
and it's like the footage left of Zack, it's been ADR to death. It's been upgraded to death. It's been cropped to death. And the thing is, like the 2-hour mandate, even if there's if this hadn't happened, if it had been released or it meant to, at least Zack knows how to use 2 hours better than Josh Whedon. At least let the guy who made the stuff use the project assets to do so. If you're coming to a new project, it makes sense to use the assets because you're on a crunch time and your client, WB, wants this thing to be done, because Emmerich and Sujihara, they weren't even sure if they were going to be there. They were getting those AT&T bonuses. The merger was happening. They're willing to slap this and go. And the thing here is it's like, Sujihara isn't part of the company, and at some point Emmerich won't. But the thing is, these execs company hop. But if there's enough of a stain on their reputation, they can't jump from Warner to Paramount. Not with Geese. They're going to be like, oh, you're the one who will like that interview with the round table with those execs. And they're all like, man, 300. You'd have to be an idiot to get rid of that. He didn't say that, but he wanted to. And, you got Emmerich slunking in his blazer, hiding it's like, and then changing the subject, which is like, well, sometimes you got to say no.
Not to interrupt, but come on now. But this is going what you're saying. What about if Sujihara caught wind of the woman that was going to expose him, and he wanted to get the bonus before he got fired?
That's very plausible.
Oh, that's dirty.
You know what? I'm at this point where I will believe anything.
Don't hate that.
I'm at the point where I will believe anything. I mean, what haven't we seen? Like what haven't we not seen over the past few years? Like, they went to the lengths of getting the Wall Street Journal to write a hit piece about us. Like, what haven't we seen? And like, if they're prepared to do that to us, who are just a bunch of unruly fans on the internet, imagine what they'd be prepared to do to Ray Fisher. So I think that we really have to keep that in mind as this situation continues to progress. We're dealing with people who really care about their $1 million paychecks.
And also, it's also just an ethics. Also, keep in mind how this will inspire other actors. He's not going to be the last. He's on the front line. He's taking the brunt.
Yeah, but we also saw an actor that was on the first season of Daredevil, and he talked
Daredevil,
yes.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
And also, John Boyega.
Oh yeah, John Boyega, my man John Boyega. I just want to say,
my guy.
I love John Boyega, man. That
basically like the Hollywood streets, quote unquote, are watching.
Yeah,
they everyone's gonna be talking. It's like, John Boyega, even before Ray said anything. So it's like we're in a weird period of time where like people they're willing to risk it all. At this kind of point.
I just want to say something real quick before we start to head out, but I just want to take this opportunity just in case, she watches this. Kaishi Clemens, like, thank you so much for standing up for Ray Fisher. Like the entire RTSC fandom appreciates, because you were the first other person aside from him to step up. So that means a lot to the entire fandom. And Jason Momoa, who has been like the GOAT from like day 2, because it was Ray. Ray was day 1 when he ripped the Borg Life shirt and had the I Love Zack Snyder t-shirt underneath. For me, that's the moment that the Snyder Cut movement was born. That's when it all started. But just thank you to Momoa, to Clemens for stepping up and for stepping up for Ray. And Casey, I love you. And I'm always gonna be there for you, whatever you do.
Oh my God!
Are we just sliding into DMs right now?
Yes, that's what I just did. That's what I just did. Because I'm the host, I do what I want.
I'm mad at you.
There's only one host.
All I can say is
Karen Bryson, David Manu, Ayer, all of them. All
I gotta say is, in case Kersey is listening, I want to I want to thank Manu for, feeding the 1,000 children who were starving in Africa. Really appreciate you for that.
I don't like to brag about that, Lupe. I don't like to brag about that, but I did that shit. Anyway,
Bryson, if you're listening.
Anyway, thank you for joining us for another rambunctious episode of the Roundtables. I had such a great time with you guys. I think that we got into a lot of heaty topics. I think that there's a lot of great sound bites in this. And I just really, really enjoyed this one. So thank you all for tuning in. Thank you guys for joining me. Let the people know where they can find you. Lupe, tell people where they can find you. If you got something to plug, do it now.
All right.
IRC Clemens is watching.
I have been yours truly, Lupe. You can find me on Twitter at Live Love Lupe. You can also find me on the various social media app at Live Love Lupe. Also, I am part of the Film Exiles Podcast, and we are a podcast that bring you like the craziest, non-biased, out of here opinions of films. We have the E&M podcast, which we do every single week. You can find us on Twitter at the Film Exiles and on the Ver app at the Film Exiles as well. We also have a YouTube channel. Check all that good shit out. Holla at your boy. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Lex, what about you, dog?
You can find me on Twitter at Raveryn, Raveryn. I'm a co-host of the JLU Podcast, which is also on Twitter at JLU Podcast, along with Sam Otten, where we analyze preferably Snyder's DCU scene by scene. We're currently trying to get through Man of Steel, and I look forward to analyzing the Snyder Cut. But, we dabble in other DC films as well.
Awesome. Hey, yo, Tim, what about you? Tell people where they can find you. And while you're at it, why don't you tell them about that time where you got into trouble and I was the only person that you called because you only trusted me to save you?
I mean, the records on that are sealed, so
Casey's watching, dog.
record, so,
Casey is watching, dog. Help her brother out. I would do it for you.
All I'll say is Manu did the right thing. All right, that's all I say. He did the right thing when it mattered.
Say it louder for the people in the back.
But all right. Vote for Manu. If you're bored and feel like wasting time, irresponsibility, you can look at my picture at Tim_Tapp, TAPP.
Awesome. So,
Tim
is a bomb ass artist. Tim is a bomb ass artist. He really is. He's got some game to him.
I do what I can. What I can.
And that's Manu doing the right thing once again. And you can find me at and you can find me at ManUnited0710 on Twitter. I am a host on the Exiles Network podcast. All that stuff. I've been here before. But again, I just want to thank everyone. I want to thank the platform. I want to thank RTSC. I want to thank every single member of the Release the Snyder Cut fandom. Even if we don't always agree, I still love you. Sometimes I wonder why, but I really, really do. And before we go, I just want to say we got so much other shit coming for you guys. You guys are going to love it. Just stay tuned. And we coming for y'all. We coming. So thank you. Follow the account. Hit the like button, comment below, hit the bell so that you're gonna know when there's a new video that's hitting the airs. And again, thank you so much to everyone involved, and have a very good night. Thank you guys.
Thank you.